there'd be another tanh shape appended to it. I could add as many as I wanted, and I could make it go up and then down and over and then up and however I wanted, right? Okay. Well, by summing these tanh shapes together, I can go up and down however much I want. Now we get to this weird function. Well, I could come pretty darn close to this function right here by doing a tanh shape, right? And right here's kind of another one, and right here's another one. And here I might use a whole bunch of them to quite fit it. And here's one, and there's sort of one. Right here, there's a pretty steep one. But they're all tanh shapes, right? And I could add up a bunch of tanh shapes to make this thing go up and down however much I wanted. Do you agree with me? Okay, suppose this function were actually sampled in data points. Pretend they're all points. Could I guarantee to hit every single one of those points precisely? If I had enough of them, yeah, I'd just put one between every successive pair of points. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's suppose it just looks like this. And then there's a crazy one up here, and then it goes like that. Well, I can easily do tanh from there to there. I can certainly do a tanh from here to there. And another one. Why isn't the color changing? There we go. Another one. Still not changing. Oops, I forgot to go down to this one. And back up to that one. Now it doesn't even look like a function anymore. Okay. Yeah. Just get away from that. But my point is simply this: if you add up a whole bunch of tanh shapes, you can go up and down however much you want, and you can hit any point that you want. And so, given enough of them, we could approximate this function with an arbitrary level of accuracy. And if you wanted more accuracy, well, I could just add more of them until I was as accurate as you wanted me to be. Are you convinced that this topology can represent any function that has one input and one output? As long as it's a mapping x to y, this can do it, given that I have enough hidden units, right? And what's enough hidden units? A darn lot, right? So, I mean, that function, it probably would have taken me 50 hidden units at least to get any reasonable level of accuracy. But it didn't take infinity. It just took a whole lot of them to get pretty darn good accuracy. And there you go. By adding up squiggle shapes, you can approximate any function. How impressed are you by this? I think it's kind of stupid, actually. I mean, no offense to Cybenko, but duh, right? I mean, obviously, if you have enough pieces, you can build anything out of it, so what's the big deal? But what actually is really interesting with neural networks is you can come really, really close to a whole lot of interesting functions without putting a sigmoid shape between every single pair of points. But if you need to, you could put one of these between every single pair of points and eventually fit to anything. And at least at the theoretical level, that's really awesome, because that means you don't need anything more complex than this. At least if you're going to try to build the world's ultimate AI, stop here, because why get more complex, right? Isn't more complexity usually a bad idea? Kind of. Well, in the assignment we most recently did, I used a 3-layer neural network. So it looked a bit more like that. Basically, the input feeds in, and it gets munged up in all kinds of crazy ways, and then it comes out. If the one hidden layer network could do anything, why would we ever use 3 hidden layers? Well, if you want to do it with one hidden layer, it takes a whole bunch of units. If you want to do it with 3 layers, it's not clear exactly what happens, but the units start morphing each other, and all kinds of weird things happen with the additional layers. And that's kind of a fun and weird thing. If we study the actual human brain, it is organized into layers. At least it looks like it is in certain parts. And the human brain is doing amazing things, so people have been surmising that many layers of neurons will make these neural networks really powerful. And they've tested it, and it seems that it really works. Meaning, we can take crazy, crazy functions, and then using a finite number of units, as long as they're arranged in these layers and they meet some properties, they tend to be able to do a good job. Recently, neural networks have been very successful at image recognition. In some cases, they've outperformed human competitors at recognizing images. And that's lots of fun because for years, people were saying image recognition is the one thing the human brain does so much better than computers. And now computers are beating it. That's cool, huh? Okay. Well, if we can do anything that maps from one input to one output, what about 2 inputs? So this is x1, and this is x2. What are we going to do with it? Well, in the worst case, we could create another layer of the same size and put it down here and connect the x2s to it. And whatever this does, wherever this puts those 10 h's, this could make completely different ones. And then they could all feed into y, and y could be a factor of x1 and x2, however we want to munge it together. Right? So no matter how you want to combine them, if we can do 1, we can do 2. Are you sold on that? Is that good enough? Finally, what if there are 2 outputs? And it may be that y1 is going like this and y2 is going like this or something different, and they're doing totally different things. Can we guarantee that we can, for the same inputs, produce totally different outputs? How would you claim that we know we can do that? I'll just say, remember we're saying you could have however many hidden units you want, right? So why not just do them separately? Have whatever hidden units you need to produce this y, and then have whatever hidden units you need to produce this y. And you could even have all the ones that are connected, that this one uses, have them be a weight of 0 connected here. And all the ones from here, you could have a weight of 0 connected to there. So you could model it as 2 totally separate functions if you wanted. Or you could combine them. The gist of it is it comes out to this. No matter how many inputs you have, no matter how many outputs you have, as long as you have enough hidden units in at least one layer, you can map any function there is. And if you do multiple layers, then it becomes even more powerful. And I don't quite know what that means, but apparently the brain utilizes it and neural networks utilize it, so we can fit arbitrary functions, and that's kind of cool. Okay. So now I want to talk about something called Occam's razor, because this is kind of a really important concept in machine learning. Suppose you have some data points that go like this. Actually, let's just go to, let's go like this. I'll fill it in on those there. There. These are all time steps. So we'll say this is t and this is y. What do you think it looks like by about here? How many people say it goes right here? Nobody. How many people say it goes way up here? Nobody. How many people say maybe somewhere around here? Pretty much everybody. And why do you say that?
Just looks like it would.
Just looks, it feels like it, right? Because you're smart. Well, SMART says that, hey, if there's a trend, it probably continues. Turns out, you're all wrong. It actually goes like this. The correct answer was right here. Why didn't you get it? You're so dumb. Wow, I just called my students dumb. I did not mean that. It was a joke. So, why couldn't you foresee that? Well, nobody could have foreseen that because while I guess it happened, it could happen, right? I mean, that is a possible function. There is some equation that would do a line that pretty much looks like that green thing, and maybe under some circumstances that would happen. And you could actually observe this, and that could be the truth. Could you predict it?
Not easily.
Not easily, not very well necessarily. Okay, well, so let's go to court of law. Suppose a crime happens around your home and you discover there are footprints going into your home and now your TV's gone. And so you say, I know that some guy came into my home and stole my TV and he was wearing a blue hat. Obviously that's not right. You should not witness that he was wearing a blue hat because you have no basis for that, right? Whereas if somebody else says, I know a man came into my home and stole my TV, and then you stop talking, that's considered more accurate than if you say, and he had a blue hat, right?
Maybe if you found a blue hat on your sofa.
Yeah, well now you have evidence, okay? So, what if he did have a blue hat though? Do you know that he didn't have a blue hat?
No.
You don't know that. He might have had a blue hat, so why is it wrong to say that he had a blue hat?
Because it might be wrong.
You might be right, but you might be wrong. Yeah, I mean, that's the way the universe is if you don't know, you still might be right, but you also might be wrong. How many possibilities are there? I mean, how many possible functions go through all of these points? There's another one that goes like this. Hey, that one got it right.